Today, I'll be sharing with you a routine that I've been refining for years now in order to create the most short, dense, efficient, and basically the perfect calisthenics warm-up. In a nutshell, this routine mobilizes the whole spine, it greases up all of your joints, meaning it mobilizes the synovial fluid in them, it increases range of motion, and overall, it prepares the body in the best possible way for a dynamic calisthenics workout. So next, I'll go quickly through the whole routine so you can get an overview of it, but after that, I'll also include a guided live session. That way, you can put your phone in front of you and do this warm-up with me.
Alright, so lay down on the floor, either on a mattress, on a thick rug, or whatever you have available, and we'll begin with a stretch for the cervical spine. Here, you want to keep your elbows on the floor and cross your fingers behind your head, pulling very carefully and mildly your head upward. Next, we have head rotations right and left. After that, we move on to flexion and extension of the head. Moving on to big but slow and smooth shoulder rolls backwards. After that, we have 8 reps of angels of death, or prone angels as they're called. Moving on to the popular yoga exercise called the cat-cow pose. After that, we lay flat on our back and we move on to a deep gluteal stretch. This is called the piriformis stretch or the figure 4 stretch. Next, we have a hip and glute stretch on the side. Moving on to my favorite exercise for the lower spine, lumbar rocks. In case you're sensitive with your lower back, you can start this exercise with your feet on the floor. Moving on to a more dynamic exercise for the lower body, glute bridges. After that, we have knee extensions. This is a great dynamic stretch for the hamstrings, but also a great exercise to warm up your knees. Moving on to a single leg hamstring stretch with one leg on the side bent. Here, make sure that you avoid hunching your back. You want to lean forward with your upper back as straight as possible. After that, we have windmills. Here, you want to rotate right and left with the opposite arm and hand extending towards the opposite foot. This is my favorite hip flexor stretch, which you can also turn into a hip and quad stretch if you choose the more advanced variation by grabbing and pulling your foot behind you with your opposite hand. Next, we get off the floor and focus on a static chest stretch. You can do this either on a doorway or also with gymnastic rings, as I'm doing here. Moving on to a set of straight elbow push-ups. After that, we have a passive hang for as much time as you feel comfortable, anything between 30 seconds and 1 minute. Moving on to the Egyptian, or as I also like to call this exercise, candy wrappers. This is one of my favorite mobility exercises for the shoulders. After that, we have a set of straight elbow pull-ups. In other words, you move from a passive hang to an active hang and back again. That's 1 rep. And we finish off with a set of bodyweight squats.
Besides a warm-up routine, this is also a great routine to incorporate in your day to wake up in the morning. It can also be a routine that you use later on if you spend a lot of time sedentary and you want to avoid stiffness, since the combination of all these exercises also takes some of the load off that bad posture puts on your body. Okay, so now we'll be diving into the live guided session. A small parenthesis here. I know that for a lot of you, this routine might seem like too long. You might feel that there are too many exercises in it. But once you get a handle of it, once you learn it by heart, and you can transition between each exercise smoothly without wasting any time at all, it doesn't take more than 11 minutes. Alright, so we start with a light stretch for the cervical spine. Just cross your fingers behind your head and lightly pull upwards. We'll be doing this for 20 seconds, more or less. Alright, so release the stretch, bring your hands back, and let's move on to rotation of the head, right and left. We want to do a total of 4 of these rotations at least. So that means 4 times going to the left and 4 times going to the right. Next, we'll move to flexion and extension of the head. Again, another 4 reps, so that it's 4 times going up and 4 times going down. Okay, moving on to 8 big circles of the shoulders backwards. And of course, these numbers are not set in stone. These are just guidelines, based on how you're feeling, on what time you're training, and all that. You can adjust these numbers. This is the minimum amount of reps I want you to do. But if you feel like doing more, the merrier, of course. Okay, next we're moving to prone angels. We want to do another 10 to 12 of these. I like to do 12 of them. Make sure your toes are pointed backwards. Your glutes are braced. Your knees are straight. And your nose is pointed downwards. That way you're not adding any extra tension on the cervical spine. Okay, moving on to the cat-cow pose. Here we'll be doing another 8 or 10 of these. It's generally recommended when you're going down to look up to the sky, and when you're going up to look down towards your sternum. So once you get about 10 of these, you want to move to the figure 4 stretch. So put your ankle on top of your knee. Bring one arm below your leg and the other one around it. And cross your fingers on top either of your thigh, if you're not that flexible, or if you have the range of motion, you can cross your fingers on top of your knee. So the goal here is to pull your ankle, so that the ankle that's on top of your knee, towards your chest. And you want to feel a stretch right here in the deep gluteal muscles such as your piriformis. These are muscles that when are tense can put some pressure on the sciatic nerve, can cause some lower back issues. And since these muscles tend to get very tonic, because we sit a lot and all of our bad posture during the day, they can be quite tight. So I like to loosen them up every time before my workout. Moving on to the other leg. Here I'm using a little bit of a different technique for me, just because my prosthesis doesn't allow me so much range of motion for this stretch. But normally, remember, you just want to put your knee, your ankle on top of your knee. Bring one arm, the arm of the ankle that is on top of your knee, below that leg, and the other one just around it. Here again, I recommend at least 20 seconds, but if you feel like doing more, again, the more, the merrier. All right, so we're extending our arms now on the side, and we want to bring one knee towards the floor, grab it with the opposite hand, and pull it down. So again, you get a good stretch of the lower back, of again the gluteal muscles over here. Basically stretch as much as you possible, but the key here is to keep the other shoulder on the floor. So my right shoulder right now is always communicating with the floor, so I'm trying not to allow it to get off the floor while pulling the other knee towards the other side. Let's do the other side. Again, 20 seconds at least here. Remembering to keep the opposite side of the body, the shoulder and the hand, in communication with the floor, while pushing the opposite, the knee towards the opposite side with the opposite hand. Okay, moving next to another one of my favorite spine mobility exercises, lumbar rocks. So
You want to extend your hands again on the side and roll your knees to the left and to the right. Again, keeping your shoulders as much as possible in communication with the floor. If this is a little bit too extreme for you, you can also keep your ankles, your feet on the floor. And, you know, in the beginning, just roll like this. And after that, bring your legs in the air and do the more advanced version. Overall, I recommend about 8 of these reps. So 8 times going to the left and 8 times going to the right. Moving next to our glute bridges. So bring your feet close to the body. That way, if you extend your hands, you can touch your Achilles heel. And let's do 12 of these glute bridges. You want to push from your heels and squeeze the glutes at the top. Don't overextend your lower back. Just bring it to a point where knees, your pelvis, and your shoulders are aligned. Okay, so I kind of lost track of counting because I was talking at the same time, but let's say that was 12 reps. Our next exercise, another one of my favorite exercises for warming up the knees, but also a great dynamic stretch for the hamstrings. Lay down on your back, keep one leg straight, bend the other knee, cross your fingers behind your thighs, and extend up and flex downwards again. So you want to give your leg room here to get as much as full range of motion extension as possible. But even if you can't stretch it completely, that's okay. You know, you don't want to cause any pain. You just want to give your leg a good stretch and to warm up that knee joint. Here, I recommend at least 12 of these. And if you have sensitive knees, feel free to do more of them. Okay, so moving on to the other leg. Let's do another 12 reps. Alright, so next we'll be moving to a stretch for the hamstrings. Here you want to have one knee bent, the other leg extended forward, and just reach out towards your toes, always keeping your back straight so you don't want to hunch. You want to bend in a way that stretches the hamstrings and not the lower back. So give it time here. You know, you'll always stretch to the point of mild discomfort, never to the point of sharp pain. And try to hold this position for at least 20 seconds or even more. Okay, let's switch our legs. Next, we'll be moving on to our windmills. So open up your legs in the front and rotate right and left, extending your opposite hand towards the opposite foot. You know, you don't have to touch your toes if you can't. Just reach out as far away as you can. Either that's your shins or your ankle or whatever feels comfortable for you. Here you want to do a total of 12 to 14 reps. So that's 12 times going to the left and 12 times going to the right. Moving on to our hip stretch. Here, as we said, you can just do the simple version or also grab your leg in the back. And this way you can also give your quad an extra stretch together with your hip. This is a bit more advanced. Some people who don't have a lot of flexibility can't always grab their foot. In that case, you can also use a band to assist you or just do the simple version. Okay, let's switch legs. Here you can either count reps or time, whatever works best for you. I like doing this for about 20 seconds. Next, we'll be moving on to a stretch of the chest. You can do the doorway stretch or my favorite version here, the chest stretch on the gymnastic rings. All right, after that, we'll be doing straight elbow push-ups. You want to do 12 of these at least. Moving on to a passive dead hang. Aim for 20 to 30 seconds here at least. This is a passive dead hang, so just allow gravity to do her work. You don't have to keep anything tight. Moving on to our Egyptians or candy wrappers, as I like to call them. Here you want to do about 12 of these. So that's 12 times rotating one side and 12 times rotating towards the other side. Moving on to our straight elbow pull-ups. I'll include tutorials, by the way, for all of these in case you are not familiar with some of the exercises. And finally, we finish off with 12 to 15 bodyweight squats. That's it.
Okay, so that was all. If you have any questions, make sure that you leave them below. I always do my best to get back to everyone. And until next time, keep on training.